Welcome to the Foundry by Forge College. Today, we're drawing the blueprints for a digital fortress. Specifically, we are designing secure API interfaces. In our last session, we set up ENS name resolution. You can think of that process as building a beautiful, welcoming front door for your application, ensuring visitors can easily find you. But here is the catch. If that welcoming front door swings open and leads directly into a room stacked with your user's most sensitive data, you have a massive security problem on your hands. Imagine hiring a construction crew to build a high-tech bank vault, but instead of giving them blueprints, you just hand them a sticky note that says, "Make it safe." They wouldn't have any idea where to start. In software development, your security checklist is that sticky note. It's a great starting point, but it leaves far too much room for interpretation until it is translated into a strict, machine-readable contract. Moving from simply knowing what you want to protect to actually protecting it requires an exhaustive architectural plan. Every rule, every lock, and every alarm has to be explicitly defined. Take a look at this structural floor plan. In our world, this is a file called OpenAPI.YAML. A .YAML file is just a highly organized machine-readable list, and this one acts as the master architectural blueprint for your API. The first thing we sketch onto this floor plan are the specific access points. We call these API endpoints, and you can think of them as the actual physical doors to your vault. Watch this first door. This is your public endpoint. It is strictly read-only, meaning anyone can walk up and look through the window at basic public data, but they cannot touch or alter a single thing inside.
Now look at the second door, the authenticated endpoint. To get through here, a user must provide a digital signature. This acts exactly like a retinal scanner, proving the user actually owns their digital wallet before they are allowed to make any account changes. Finally, we have the third door, the service endpoint. This entrance requires a service token for automated background jobs and webhooks, which are like digital pagers that send automatic notifications when something happens. This VIP pass allows trusted machines to bypass human security checks safely. By explicitly defining these three authentication types in the specification, you remove the guesswork about who or what is allowed into specific areas. Of course, people will inevitably try to open doors they shouldn't, but imagine an alarm system that just screams error without giving you any clue as to what actually went wrong. It's frustrating and entirely unhelpful. That is why we create an error handling contract. This flowchart shows what happens when access is denied. The blueprint dictates a neatly formatted message, like a printed ticket, that tells the user the exact error code, the reason for the rejection, and the precise next steps. Notice how the card splits here. We include a simple true or false flag called retryable. This immediately tells the client software whether the failure was a temporary glitch, meaning they should try again, or a permanent rejection, meaning they need to stop. But what if the issue isn't someone trying to pick the lock? What if 10,000 people try to rush the doors all at once? We manage that traffic by setting up rate-limiting headers, like X rate limit remaining. This acts like a strict turnstile system, enforcing a steady one-in, one-out rhythm to prevent your servers from getting overwhelmed and crashing. Standardizing these errors and speed limits means that when a crisis hits, your servers and the client software are speaking the exact same language. You prevent confusion, and you protect the system from collapse. Next, we need to install the digital security cameras, which we call telemetry. Across all the learning programs here at Forge College, we consistently emphasize that having deep visibility into your network is non-negotiable. To get that visibility, we require specific audit headers, like the X request ID. This forces the system to meticulously log exactly who is attempting to access the data and precisely when they tried to do it. At this point, you have a solid design, but how do you prove to a security reviewer that your technical blueprint actually satisfies the requests written on that original sticky note? We handle that with a file called security-annotations.md. A .md file is just a standard digital document. This file acts as a two-column bridge. On the left is your checklist item, and on the right is a direct link to the exact line of code in the blueprint that satisfies it. This mapping file creates a verifiable trail. It shows any reviewer that every security concern we identified has a concrete, testable solution built right into the design. Watch as these pieces come together. By writing these documents, you take a vague wish list and turn it into a strict, verifiable contract, which helps to significantly reduce the room for human error during development. Because this contract is fully machine-readable, automated tools and your peers can test the API security logic before you lay down a single brick of actual application code. With a peer-reviewed blueprint in hand, you are ready for the next phase. In our upcoming lesson, we will hand this specification to the builders to wire up the real application code and connect those telemetry hooks. To explore the rest of this capstone project and continue your journey into Web3, visit forge.college. We'll see you in the next build.